Hey everybody, this is Perch. I said in a video that the one on Dragon Ball that I was going to do this topic because it's a good one. It's one of those where I disagree, and I don't know if it's just me thinking this way or if it's maybe I'm the maybe this is the majority and there's just people who are misunderstood. So one of the common complaints you will see from people at the Big Two is that the amount of stories is a weakness for them. The amount of volumes, the fact that Fantastic Four has been in existence, has been going since the '60s, is a very difficult problem. It's something that they have to figure out how to overcome, and it's very new reader unfriendly to have this massive collection of comics. Same thing in DC. I've heard people say this about Batman, Superman. Dan Didio would make these comments fairly regularly of just, this massive backlog of comics, this huge history becomes a barrier. New readers will come into it and go, I'm not going to commit to reading 1,000 Batman issues. I reject it. I'm not going to do it. And they will, turn away and they will not get involved in the comics. They will, it's too much. It's too much for them. And that's been the reasoning behind things like the Ultimate Line and the New 52 and kind of various different efforts that the comic publishers have done to say it's too hard for people to know what's going on. Therefore, we need to reboot, restart, put our effort and our focus into newer characters, newer titles, things that do not have a mountain of history behind it that is just way too difficult for our readers to understand. And my perspective could not be more opposite. I don't agree that that's what's happening. I don't agree that there's a substantial amount of people who look at something and say, wait, Spider-Man's been around from the '60s. I can't possibly like or read this character now. There's just way too much. I can't. And my evidence for this, other than just kind of basic human consumer behavior, which does not operate like that, in many cases, the volume of work generally designates trust. In fact, as what I've seen as a retailer, what I've seen from other markets, is if there is this huge backlog of stuff, people are more likely to want to jump into it because they believe that it's got lasting appeal. It's kind of the situation where there's a lot of pop music that people buy and it sells, not because it's good, because a lot of it is absolute shit. But anyway, not because it's good, but because it's like, oh, it's selling really, really well. Oh, 1 million copies sold. Well, it must be good now. It must be. If it's if that many people bought it, then clearly this is something I need too. There's that certain behavior, human behavior, where you want to be attached to something popular. You want to be attached to something that looks like it's very, very successful. That's why brands tend to last, arguably, despite in many cases their best efforts. That's why a lot of people continue to migrate to Marvel and DC. It's because they know these characters. It's because there's a confidence that these characters go on for a long time. So I think every time I would hear somebody like Didio saying that, I would cringe. And in many cases, I remember C.B. Cebulski, when he first came into the job, he said, we have this rich legacy. We have all these stories. We have this past, and that is our strength, that we get to continue the chapters. And that's the honor of working in our company, is that we get to continue the adventures of these characters that have lasted for decades. And it's a strength of our readers that they know that these adventures have survived the test of time. And when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, cool. Okay, this guy gets it." I was pleased to hear it. I thought, he's exactly right. This is a strength. And then like a couple weeks later, he gave an interview saying, one of our biggest problems is that we can't get readers to understand where to, that there's just too much, and that's why we're going to launch some new characters and some new initiatives so they know what to read. And I'm like, God damn it, you had it. You had it and you blew it. Which is true of a lot of things in comics. But that was a sad one for me because I felt like he was onto something, and either he got into the company deeper and like the infection hit him and changed his brain, or who knows. The other problem here is I think people conflate this idea with a separate problem, and that separate problem is our readers don't know where to start. Now that is a problem, and this is a problem that is self-inflicted by the company itself. So this isn't the case where, and people hate it when I give this example, and I get the oh, he's just sucking up to manga. It's not sucking up to manga. It's literally be aware of what's working other places and copy it, you dumbass. So it in this case, if you go to Barnes and Noble, and yes, there's always some smartass in the comments like Barnes and Noble still exists. I don't know why that bugs me as much as it does. It's because the people is just it bugs me when people just wildly feel comfortable to display their absolute ignorance. It just it's idiocracy in motion. But there's like some anti Barnes and Noble person right now frantically hitting that downvote button, but it doesn't matter anymore because nobody sees it. YouTube, you scamp. Anyway, the if you go into a Barnes and Noble and you look at the graphic novels and the manga shelves, and it's really just a matter of just look at them, you will immediately notice a vast difference. In manga, you will see the trade dress of series that looks exactly the same with a very easy to read number on the spine. It's also on the front book, so no matter how they have it turned, you know exactly what's going on, and you will see, here is here is whatever it happens to be. I'm trying to think. I always go to the same manga, but we'll I won't be original. We'll go with My Hero Academia. You've got My Hero Academia and My Hero Academia Vigilantes, and I think they start a third series now. But you'll see a bunch of those on there. And what you'll notice is not only do all the My Hero Academia books line up and fit and and map to each other, but there is easy numbering right on the spine that says Volume 1, and after that there's Volume 2, and it is impossible not to know what order you need to read things in. It's impossible to get it wrong. It's just right there. And the funny thing is, even though there's a spin-off, there's My Hero Academia Vigilantes, it's the trade dress is similar enough to My Hero Academia that it feels like it's in the same family, but it's different enough that you could not mistake going from one to the other by accident. It is right there for you, easily numbered, easy to read. By contrast, if you hop over to the graphic novels section and I defy you to figure out the reading order to Batman. Just be my guest. It is impossible. It is there. That'd be a good nerd game show where somebody goes into Barnes and Noble and you start the clock. You're like, okay, 2 minutes, go, and it's like quick, organize Spider-Man in chronological order, go. And the person is like, shit, I'm like, here's Ultimate Spider-Man, there's a Miles Morales, Spider-Gwen, what the F is it? Okay, this is omnibus here, and we got what is this over? I mean, just, that'd be a hilarious show. Somebody should that'd be a great kind of YouTube challenge, just somebody try to figure out what the hell is going on. That's definitely a problem. And here's the normal consumer behavior I would see. People come in, and you'll find this with almost anything, and they'll go, oh wow, look at all of the volumes of whatever it happens to be, the Avengers. Wow, the Avengers, there's a movie out, I've heard, made a lot of money, it's good. I'm seeing people with shirts on, look at all this Avengers stuff, there's so much, and there's an excitement that immediately takes place. I'm like, wow, I've hit the gold mine. I've heard people actually say exactly those words. We've hit the gold mine, there's so much here for us, hooray. Because as it turns out, when people kind of like something or think they like something, they want lots of it. We're gluttons. They want as much as they can possibly find. That's the happiness part of the arc. Then the unhappiness settles in. All right, where do I begin? And generally, you're like, okay, well, here's an omnibus. I'm gonna want you to spend $125, and here is 1960s. Here's some 1960s Avengers here, and it's like, wow, I don't recognize. I mean, is that Thor? Is what Ant-Man? He's married to the what? When did what? How is this back in the I don't understand. I would like something that looks a little bit more like the movies. Okay, it's like, all right, well, here's New Avengers Volume 1 by Bendis and Fitch. It's like, oh, this art is a little bit more contemporary, what I might be used to, but why? the Avengers are disbanded here. They don't have any money. Wolverine's on the team. What? It's like, oh, okay, scratch that. Here's Jason Aaron. Here's volume. Here's first trade paperback of this is a current writer of the series. Like, okay, wait a minute. Why does the Hulk have boobs? Wait, that's a woman now. Who's Ghost? Why, Ghost Rider's? I thought he wrote the movie I saw. He was riding a motorcycle. Why is he riding a car? Like what? And you will, to be fair, you will get some fans who are like, this is so weird. I'm into it. I want to know how did we get here? I'm excited to find out, and they'll try it. But it is just very difficult to parse. So what I would often do is go to very classic kind of stories. It's like, hey, here is the Korvac saga, and here is the Kree-Skrull War, and there's going to be parts that you do not understand, like why there's this big giant green jelly slime with octopus hair that seems to be running around. Like, what's his deal? Don't worry about it. Just it's a fun comic. Or here is I didn't sell a lot of Operation Galactic Storm, but people did. People have fond memories of that. Here's like the Under Siege storyline. Here's like you point them to stuff like that, and you kind of maneuver them in. But what would be way better and way easier is if the comic publishers themselves figured out good ways to kind of just point people in the right direction, either through cheap signs, so you can start back at the very beginning and move them way up because it's easy to pick them up, but print it in a very cheap format. When somebody is just trying to get started reading the Avengers, you shouldn't throw $125 hardcover book at them and say good luck. I mean, they're not going to appreciate the prestige paper and all that kind of stuff at that stage. They're just trying to get into the book. The other thing to do would be to actually reprint the great storylines, the ones that are designed to get you hooked, and say, at some point you'll want to go back and read all the issues, but for now let's take you to the greatest hits, kind of like your favorite musician, or like you get the Rolling Stones, or you get Aerosmith, or you get Guns N' Roses. They put out a best of album. Get the Faith No More greatest hits, and you'll probably want to go and get the regular album. So we're going to give you all the best stuff. So maybe there's a series that has these best moments, and then they commission somebody to do 5 pages. I mean, go find Breen and get him to do 5 pages at the beginning of every book that simply says, hey, here's why this is going on. Yeah, this happened, and then this happened, and here's a little how to get you started so you don't feel completely confused, but otherwise enjoy the ride. That would be pretty easy to do. But regardless, my point here is the amount of material, the volumes, it is a strength. And people are not looking at, this huge library of Spider-Man or Avengers or Batman or Superman content and going, I can't possibly get behind this. I can't possibly get involved. It's way too hard for me. They don't look at it that way. Instead, they look at it as, this is great. I'm ready to have a big adventure with a lot of different comics. It's a good thing. And if you just lean into that as a company, life will be pretty good. It's only when you decide to resist it, when you decide to make it more complicated and confusing, when you decide to go against what is very basic consumer behavior. And that is what this is. It's very, very basic consumer. It's what people often, you learn this in retail. They just want to give you their money. If they find something they like, their excitement is to just find a way to get their money out of their pocket, get it to you, get the thing that they're excited about, and move on with life. That's all they want. And so your goal is to remove all the obstacles you can in order to help them achieve that goal. And the way you screw up in business is that you have a lot of obstacles, create a lot of friction. You basically make it hard for them to do that, because then they will put the money back in their wallet. They're like, you know what, F it, I'm going home. I'll find something else to enjoy. This is too difficult. Which is another statement I've heard many, many times in the comic shop. This is too complicated. Notice they're not saying there's too much here. They're saying it's too complicated. Very, very different things. But every time I talk to people, it's not just me talking. You can see it yourself. Go look up some of the old interviews of Didio. He would go on and on about this, and it was just like, you do not get it. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.